Welcome to part 2. It is again me talking, and I'm going to try and reduce the amount I say this time because I've already filmed this. It was like 15 minutes. So basically, we're in the lounge, bit carnage, mess everywhere. We've got the rapid response paramedic, we've got one midwife. The second midwife either came just before I pushed him out, as he was coming out, or just after. I'm not really sure because I was slightly preoccupied with the whole pushing out of the gigantic baby. So I'd had him, and the midwife said to me, "Come on, turn over, Lisa," and it's amazing how much more control you got over your body when the baby's out. So I turned over and she put him in my arms. He was covered in vernix, and I remember thinking, "You look like you're early, not late. This is really weird, and you're massive." And at this point, no one knew how big he was or anything, but I remember looking at him thinking, "My God, you're gigantic. No wonder that hurt." My mum branched into the living room. Bless her, she did say she made a point of staying in the kitchen because she didn't think it was right that she was in the room when the baby was born, when his own mother wasn't there. She didn't think it was right, so she hid in the kitchen, even though she hated it because she knew her baby was in pain. And her baby was scared, and she wanted to be there for me, but she didn't want to take away something from Joe. And I love her for that. I love her for that. But I also think she's Blanca, but I love her. So she sort of branched in, and she was still making everybody tea. The midwife had been offered a cup of tea when she walked in. The second midwife was offered a cup of tea. Everyone said yes. Tea for everybody. It was quite sort of sweet in a way. And so I'm sat there holding this baby, and I'm like really shaking because of all the adrenaline. And I said, "Dan, ring Joe," but in a really pathetic voice because I couldn't actually muster up much of anything to do anything at that point. And so he's on the phone to Joe, and as he's talking to her, he says, "Oh, your son's here," and Finley starts crying, and no one's called him his name. No one did until they came and they called him by his name. Everyone just called him Little Man, even though he was far from little. Bless his little God. So I'm still saying little. They are still very little, though. Everything's very little, but very big, considering his age. So as he's on the phone to Joe, she says, "Is Lisa all right?" And as he says that, she said that, I felt like gushing, absolute gushing blood coming out of me. And I remember saying to the midwife, "Something's gushing out of me, and I don't think it's water." She went, No, that's blood." She's like, "Right." So they start flapping. Darren's face goes because I think he's remembering George's birth. And with George, I had a postpartum hemorrhage and a really bad tear. Ended up in theatre for repair. I started shaking, but because I was losing so much blood, and I think he just went like that. So I saw his face, and I'm going, "It's okay, I'm okay. It's just the adrenaline." And so Joe obviously heard him go silent and sensed something was up. So she's on the phone going, "Is Lisa okay? Is Lisa okay?" And he's like, and I'm going, I'm fine. He's going, "Yeah, no, she's okay. There's just a bit of bleeding." And then he sort of gets off the phone because I think he's sort of panicked at this point. I keep looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at the bit above the camera. Sorry. There's a bubble, and I keep thinking that's the camera. It's not. So I feel really bad about that, but I was okay. So at this point, they're like, "Right, well, we haven't got anything to give you to get the placenta out, so we're going to have to sort of do a manual extraction. I need you just to start pushing and stuff." And then she says, can you breastfeed the baby to sort of help things along? So Darren's back on the phone to Joe and says, "Is it all right if we give Finley colostrum? Or is it all right if Lisa feeds the baby colostrum and stuff?" And she said, "Yeah, that's fine." So he went on, and one of them was like massaging my stomach, and the other one was like tugging the umbilical cord, which, by the way, I got to cut, which is cool because I always wanted to do that and I'd never done it before. And they start like tugging this thing, and it does come out, and I noticed that it's absolutely ridiculously massive, and it looked lumpy, and I don't remember any of the other ones looking lumpy. It was really weird, but it does sort of slow down the bleeding at that point. Unfortunately, I do keep gushing blood every now and then, so they're saying if you lose any more, you're gonna have to go in. I'm like, "No, I don't want to go into hospital." So I'm like having a word with my uterus and telling it to stop being a pain in the ass. And I was sort of holding Finley, and I started to feel I was really tired and everything. I said, "Look, does anyone else want to hold him? Because I'm actually struggling." Little did I realise it was because he weighed the same amount as a car. Okay, maybe not a car, but a lot. And I was quite weak after giving birth, and it was just all a bit hard, and he wasn't mine. And I was just like, could someone else, take the kid. So I palm him off on Darren, I think, at this point, and then my mum has a cuddle, which she feels really messed up and guilty about. But Darren's busy doing something paperworky, I think, and I was just weak and everyone else was busy. So basically Mum got dumped with a baby, and she was like, "I feel really bad holding him before his own mother." And I was like, "Just do as you're told, woman. Shush." No, I wasn't mean at all, but it was really, really handy she was there because everyone else was like busy doing stuff and I was completely pointless. So At this point, they noticed that Finney's breathing is a little bit intense. He gets that pull right there, and I think his nostrils were flaring, or there were some signs of something. So, like, look, you're going to have to go in. 24-hour observations. And that's just how it is. And I was like, oh, bugger it. So they called an ambulance, and the big guy and the big rig thing came. So we ended up with 3 paramedics, 2 midwives, my mum, Darren, and myself. Whilst this is going on, the kids have woken up a bit. So all 3, no, actually, George came downstairs because he wanted to see the baby, and he literally just came and went, oh, baby, you're really cute. Okay, I'm going to bed, and went upstairs. Edie came downstairs because she didn't like it, and because she said, oh, baby out mummy's tummy, because she could hear him crying. So she just happened to get up for a wee, I think, and heard a baby crying and knew that he was here. So she came downstairs and said hello, and then said goodbye to me and went to bed. Little did we realise I'd be gone for so long. So it's quite nice that they came down. Darren asked Alice, you might have to fill in the words for me here, Darren. Asked Alice if she wanted to come down, and she said, what was it?
I'm not a baby person.
She just said, I think she's actually said, that's okay, I'm not a baby person, and just went back to bed. I love Alice. It's just, oh, do you want to come downstairs and meet the baby? No. She's just not fussed by babies. George and Edith love babies, absolutely love. They both melt over them, they coo, they stroke. They're like, oh, baby's neat. Alice is like, it's all right, whatever. She's so mine. I love her. So that made me giggle. And then, of course, we got sent off in the ambulance to the hospital, which was really annoying. But at this point, I was thinking I was just going to get 24-hour obs and we'd be out tomorrow. No. So my IPs appear in the early hours of the morning. I think it's 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, something along those lines. We did capture some absolutely amazing clips that I have put together as a video, but I'm going to send the private link to my IPs first and make sure they're all right with it. I did speak to them yesterday when we saw them as we were being as Finley was being discharged, and Sean said he was fine with me sharing them, but I'm still going to let them review it first before I upload it. So basically, we get to the hospital, I've got side room, they've got side room, everything's fine, but it ends up that Finley has an infection and his markers are pretty high up. And so I have to stay for the first day or so with him. Well, not with him, he was with his parents, but he ended up going to NICU or SCABU or whatever you want to call it. I think they call it NICU. And had a cannula put in his hand, and he was having his bloods drawn, and he had antibiotics, he had a chest x-ray, he had a lumbar puncture to make sure it wasn't meningitis because the levels kept rising, not dropping to start with. They started dropping on day 3 but took a long time to drop. He was 6 days old when he was finally discharged, and that was last night at 8 o'clock. And until then, his poor parents were stuck in a side room in a hospital, miles away from where they live. So none of their loved ones had seen him or them or anything. And I just felt really bad for them. But it is what it is, and he needed the medication and everything, but he is now fine. I was going to be discharged, and literally the head midwife, who I absolutely adore, had come in and spoken to me and said, we've got the paperwork ready, you're going to be discharged now. And I was like, yeah, I'm going home, because Edith was not happy with this. She really does struggle with things, and she's definitely attached to me as much as I'm attached to her, and therefore she was finding it very difficult. And just as I was getting everything ready to leave, and she's like, right, you can go in a minute, we just have to do your obs before you go. And my BP came back not sky high, but pretty high. It was, I think it was 188 over 97. And they went, yeah, you're not going. And I just was like, what? Please say you're kidding. She's like, I'm really sorry, you're going to have to stay, you're going to have to be on medication. Spoke to the doctor, they put me on something called Lipitor, I think, 100 milligrams twice a day. And they had said that they had to monitor me throughout the night, and as long as my PP was stable and lower, then I could go home the next day. It was stupid me thinking in the morning, and then they come in the morning and said, well, there's still a bit of a fluctuation, so you have to stay through the day, and hopefully you'll be discharged at 6 o'clock. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever, throughout the day, but it still would not settle. So they doubled my medication and said, I'm really sorry, you can't go home today, maybe tomorrow. So again, you're sort of hoping for the morning. It gets to the morning, they're like, sorry, you have to stay because it's still not right, you have to stay for the day. Maybe you'll be discharged tonight, but it'll probably be tomorrow. And at that point, I just sat on the bed and absolutely sobbed my socks off, because it wasn't how it was supposed to be. I hated being away from my kids. I hated being in that room on my own for so much, because Darren would come in the day for a few hours, then he'd have to go and get the kids, see the kids for 2 hours, but Edith could not cope. with all the change and being out of the room. She wanted to be with me, but she didn't like the hospital, and everything just got too much. So I'd see them for about 2 hours, and then they go home, and I'd just be sat there by myself. And it was horrible. Like, my mum came on the first night and we had a chat on the phone on the second night, but she was actually going up to London for my dad's birthday, and it was just horrible. It really was. It sucked. And so I didn't enjoy that bit. And I also felt immensely guilty that Finley was having antibiotics twice a day and my IPs were stuck in this room. And it just sucked. It did. I know it's not awful. He wasn't like really sick. It could have been a lot worse, but it sucked. It was horrible. It sucked, and it was poo. So at the minute I'm on beta blockers twice a day and blood thinners, so I have to inject myself in the thigh, and that bloody hurts. I mean, I did the injections in the stomach of the buserelin every day, and that didn't hurt. But this blood thinner, Fragmin, ow, not a fan. But I've only got like 3 days left, I think. Finally, today's day 3, then just 2 more days after this, and I do that of an evening. So I'm hoping that I will be off the medication soon, but I don't think it's going to happen just yet because my BP is still a little bit high on it, still within normal ranges, but higher than I usually am on the medication. So I don't see them letting me come off of it anytime soon, unfortunately. I've got the doctors on Friday where they'll review it. Maybe they'll reduce the dose and I'll go back in a week and get checked again. I don't know. I just know that I really don't like being on beta blockers. I feel very sluggish, very slow. Don't think I'm not entirely sure I will be able to drive a car right now. I think now I've slept a bit and I'm less stressed, it probably won't be as bad, but I've just been like that. So it's been very difficult in comparison to all the other post-baby euphoric experiences I've had. This one has definitely been harder and I've definitely struggled, but he's been registered. He is now home. He got home at 1 o'clock in the morning this morning. I'm at home with my family and my babies, and I'm doing all right. I want to get off the medication because I'm not a medication person. He's doing all right. Everyone's all right. And honestly, if hopefully you'll be able to see the video of my IPs meeting him for the first time and going home and everything. And that is what surrogacy is all about. That is everything that makes my heart happy when it comes to surrogacy, because that's just pure joy. So anyway, I'm going to get off because this is getting really long. Hopefully that video will be up in the next couple of days. I don't see them having an issue with it, but if it isn't, blame them, not me. I'm really nice. All right, I will speak to you all soon, and if you have any questions, requests or anything like that, do comment below and I will endeavour to deal with them and whatever, and I will speak to you all soon because apparently I'm now talking total tosh. So yes, I'm gonna go. All right, take care people, bye.